Hello everybody. In this screencast we're going to look at how to parse some JSON and how to retrieve data from an API, how to use Postman. So this in-class assignment, you are provided with a Postman file, and I have a starter project that implements all the layouts that we need, but we just need to go and get the data using the API that is provided. So basically the first screen is a contacts list screen. Basically, you go and talk to this API, contacts JSON API, and that's all provided in the Postman file. You retrieve the data from there, and then you display the list of contacts. We'll look at what data is provided, and then you display them in a list. You click on one of the rows, it goes to a details screen. You click on the delete icon, deletes it, and then there is an add button which allows you to go to the new contact screen where you can create a new contact. So basically the APIs are, you can list the contacts, you can delete a contact, and you can create a new contact. So basically these are the three main screens. There is also a details screen, which is you pass it the contacts object and it displays the contact details. Alright, so you are provided with a zip file. That zip file is a JSON file, and basically what you need to do is open Postman. And you need to import. So basically you can click on import here, and then you drag and drop the JSON file into this field here, and it creates you click on import, and it will create a collection for you here on the left, and the collection has the APIs. For example, here is get contacts. You click on send, and it gets you the contacts. See here. So now the important thing when you're using Postman, it allows you to test these APIs, right? So these are some of the accounts that are created here. These are the contacts, and then you can create a contact. So basically getting a contact is a get request, has no parameters. Creating a contact is a post request, and if we look at the body, here's the body. You provide the name, email, phone, and type, and if you click send, it creates a contact for you. So we created a contact Alice Smith, and the contact ID is 9. So when you go back and you click on get the contacts, you will see at the bottom Alice Smith that we just created. You can also delete a contact. Delete a contact is a post request. The body of it, you just provide the ID. Let's delete the one we just created. The ID is 7. Go here, I'll type in 7, and I click on send, and the status is okay. So now if you go back to contacts, click send, that contact is deleted. Alright, so these are the contacts. This is the APIs that we're going to use. All right, let me just increase the size a little bit so that you could see better. All right, so this is the URL of the API. We'll look at these different APIs in a little bit. Okay, so now let's have a look at the app. Here is the Java code. So I'm going to use OKHTTP. So basically I need to add the library for OKHTTP in the manifest. So I go here to OKHTTP, and basically if you scroll down a little bit, they have the library. Here is the library. Copy it here, the implementation, and I paste it here. I added the library, and I added also view binding, so sync now, and now I will have the library imported. Right, so let's have a look at the main activity. Is the main activity, and when we start the main activity, we will just go to the contacts list screen. Okay, so to do that, get support fragment manager, begin transaction dot commit, and we're going to add a fragment r.id.rootView and new contacts fragment. All right, so basically we're not going to pass it any information. The contacts fragment will make an API call, and it will retrieve the data and so on. Okay, so that's this. Okay, I will close the main activity for the time being. Right now, also in the manifest, because you're going to use the internet, so basically we need to add the uses permission, the internet permission. Right, we need the internet permission. And now when we look at these APIs again, all the APIs are HTTPS, so I don't need to allow raw data, right? So, or raw data requests, or I don't need to do that. They're all HTTPS. Okay, so we're good here. We have the contacts fragment. Now the contacts fragment doesn't receive any data, so basically we delete all the code that is here. We don't need the onCreate, we don't need all of this code, and we don't need all of this. Okay, good. So now basically what we need to do, I don't know why it's showing my name here, it's pretty interesting, but when you click, I don't know what's going to happen, but anyway. Okay, so let's add binding. So binding fragment, contacts binding, here's binding. And let me disable GitHub Copilot just so that I could, anyway, I think I could use GitHub Copilot, I enabled it. So let's see. So here we are. Now I'll enable binding, initialize binding equals this, return. So this is all GitHub Copilot. It's helping me write this code because this code is boilerplate. We know that this is straightforward code, right? So here we are, and then we go and on view created, right, here it is. And then basically this is the on view created, and now we just let's see what we're going to do. Let's just set let's say get activity dot set title to contacts, right, here it is. Okay, cool. So that's this. And then basically also I think we have a button in that layout. So you go here in the layout, contact list item. This is the list item, which just shows one contact item, but then create items, contact. This is fragment contacts. So it's going to have a recycler view, has a button, and the recycler view. Good. So basically, let's set up the button. Find view by ID. Before I do all of that stuff, you know, all these, I need to get the contacts. So I want to write a method void get contacts. All right. So that's basically what I'm going to write. And let me just put a little bit of spaces so that it's on the center of the screen. You can see it better this way. Here it is. Okay. Get contact. So basically what I would like to do is to make an API call to get contact. This is the URL that I'm going to use. Here's the URL. Here's my URL, right? And let's have a look at OK HTTP. If we look at, go all the way up, and it has recipes, and I just want to make a get call, right? So here are the recipes, Java, and I'd like to make an asynchronous get call. So here's an asynchronous get call. So I need a client. I'll copy I need a client. So here's the client, Control C, and I have the client here, and options enter to import, and I already added the library, so I can do the import. That's perfect. So I have a client, I create a request. Here's my request, copy that, paste it here, options enter. Oops, so option import the class, and here we go. So basically here is the request, and it's a get request. So basically I cut from here and I paste the URL. So now this is the request, and then you use the client dot see here, so client dot new call, you give it the request, and then you enqueue to make an asynchronous call. So basically I'll just say a new call, give it the request, and then we say enqueue new callback, and here we are. So basically that's the callback. And basically what happens, it creates an asynchronous call which runs on another thread. Okay, and basically here, if there is failure, right, if there is a problem with the API here, when the response is okay, right, you get a response here. So basically you can check. Let me disable this so that you could see what I'm trying to do here. So let me disable GitHub Copilot. So disable completions. I'll go if response is successful, right, here we are, else we'll do something else here. Now you can get the body of the response. So we'll say string body equals response dot string. You notice it's not the toString. Response dot body dot string, not the toString. This gives you the string of the body. Okay, so now I have the body. So let's say log d, and I'm just going to print out the body. Right, here it is, and done. Okay, so I'm just going to run this. When the app first starts, I'm just going to call this method here, get contacts. Right, so I'm going to run this app. Right, so basically what I'm doing is I'm just calling the API. You know, see, it's just 2 lines. You call the API. It's not that much code. You know, of course, there's a lot of code written in that library. You know, that library really reduces the amount of code we have to write. You know, so basically, we create a request. We just need use the client to make a new call, enqueue it to make an asynchronous call, and on response you just say if the response is successful, do this, else we do something else. Okay. So now once it runs, it should, if we look at the logcat, all right, here we are, and you see here that the response is okay, and we retrieved the data. You see here the string that's being printed at the bottom, it shows the response and it says the status is okay, and then there is contacts and so on. All right, so I'll parsing this means that I am halfway there, right? So now when I look at this response, this is an object. So basically, if you're parsing JSON, you just have to ask yourself, is this an object or an array? So basically the response is curly brackets. This means that it is a object. If it has square brackets like this means it is an array. So it starts off as an object. So basically what we will do is we'll say JSON object, and this is called root JSON, for example, equals new JSON object, and we pass it the body. Okay, cool. So now we have transformed it into a JSON object now, and we surrounded by a try catch. Okay, so we have the JSON object. So basically what do we have? We have the root object, this root object. From the root object I want contacts. Contacts is an array. All right, so this is a JSON array, and this is the contacts JSON array equals new equals from the root get JSON array, and the name is contacts. That's the name of the array. The name should match this name. All right, so now I have the array. Now I just need to loop over the array for each. I can do a for each, or I could do for I. Okay, for I equal to 0, I less than contacts array dot length. Okay, cool. So now I'm gonna loop over the array. So basically it's a JSON array. I'm gonna loop and I'm gonna get an object each time. All right. So basically I could do that. That's why I need the index. So basically what I'm going to do here is just basically get the each object. So each object is a JSON object, and this is a contact JSON object equals new equals contact array dot get JSON object at index I. Right. So basically, if you look at the response has a JSON object. This is what the JSON object looks like, right? You just maybe I copy it and paste it because I'm going to use it in my code. So basically, let's go back to the app. Here, I'll create a contact class. Contact. Here it is. Don't ask again, and just add. I'm using GitHub, so that's why it keeps on asking me to add stuff and so on. Now I'm going to copy this stuff from here. Okay, and basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to create string, and I'm going to use the same names that I have here. I know it starts with a capital letter, but I'll use it for another purpose, so that when I use another library that I'll introduce you to, it's called the JSON library, makes my life easier. There it is, email, and then phone, and then the phone type. All right, so these are the strings that I'm going to have here, and now I would like to create a constructor for that accepts an empty constructor. First of all, a constructor. I'll create an empty constructor to start with. I'll create also another constructor that receives a JSON object, an empty constructor. So basically, let me copy the empty constructor. Here it is, and it receives a JSON object, and basically that JSON object, I'll call it JSON, right? And then it extracts data from inside the JSON object and puts it in these variables. So basically I could do CID equals JSON object dot get string, and the name is CID. I could do something like that. Now it's not happy, so you just add the exception as part of the because it throws an exception. You know, if it doesn't find that attribute in the JSON object. Okay, do that, and I'll do the same thing for the remaining ones. So the name, here's the name, and the name, the email, and the phone number, and then the phone type. I use the same names of attributes and variables just to make my life easier, and I will use it later in when I use the JSON library. It's another library that makes life easier also. Here, get the getters and setters for all of them. Right, here they are, and I have the contact class created. All right, so now here from the JSON object that I have here, I can go ahead and create a contact by saying contact equals new contact, and I pass it the JSON object. All right, so I have the contact. I know that I will have to visualize these into a recycler view. So let's create an array list of contact. I call it contacts equal new array list. So it's a new array list. So when I try to get contacts, I'm just going to say contacts.clear. All right, I can do contacts.clear even here before doing the loop. Here I'm going to clear the contacts, and then here maybe I'll do contacts dot add contact. All right, so basically what I'm doing right now is just adding the contacts that I parsed into the contacts array list. Here I clear it just to empty it, you know, in case I want to recall this method again. So now when I call this method again, I just make the API call. When I get a result, I clear the contacts array that I had. Maybe I had previously contacts in the contacts array, clear them, add the new ones, and now it's time to tell the adapter. So basically here I need to tell the adapter notify the adapter that the data has changed, right? All right, cool. So that's get contacts, right? We'll close it in the time being. Now let's build the adapter, okay, which is I need a class. I'll call it, for example, the contacts adapter extends RecyclerView dot adapter needs a view holder, and then we go here class contact view holder extends RecyclerView dot view holder. All right, here it is. Create the constructor. We're good with this, and now we take the contact view holder, we paste it here, options enter import the class, and now the methods that are for the contacts adapter, we have to implement the missing methods. Here they are. Cool. Now how many items? This is going to be contacts dot size. Now all the view holder code and all of that stuff is stuff that we already built. In the layout also here you see we built before. I mean, we have a contact list item, you know, it's going to hold the name, the email, and so on, all that stuff here, and then there is a trash can to handle the deletion. Okay, so basically I can use view holders. You know, I like to use view holders for these recycler views, so it's very straightforward also. So basically what I'm going to do is, this is the place where we create a view holder, and that's where we do the binding, the view binding. That's what we're going to use here. So basically it's called contact list item. So it's contact list item binding, and let's call it, for example, I'll call it something else. We call it, for example, I don't want it to confuse with the binding that we have here, right? I'm going to call it, for example, the view holder binding, something like that, equals contact list item binding dot inflate get inflator parent false, right? That's this, and then we're going to pass on that binding to the view holder instead of view item. That's what we're going to do here, and we're just going to do a rebinding.getRoot here, right? Super. And then we're going to start the binding in here. So we're going to do this, and maybe we can call it here mbinding, right? So here is mbinding, and we'll do mbinding equals viewholder binding, right? The one that we received. Okay, cool. So now this allows us to create a viewholder based on that. So basically I'm going to do new viewholder and pass it the viewholder binding. You know, I don't need all of this code. I could just copy this, just summarize things a little bit. I don't even need the variable. I can cut this from here, paste it here, and we're good to go. All right, cool. So now on bind, we always create, I always like to create a method, public void, and I'm going to call it setup UI, and we'll figure out what the setup UI does. And basically we're going to send it a contact and then we set up the UI. Maybe we need the contact, store it, contact contact, right? And then we could say this dot contact equals contact, right? And then we can use the binding here to do stuff. But then on view binding, what I'm going to do is get the contact equal the contacts dot get at position. So that's the contact. And then the view holder, we have the holder dot setup UI, pass it the contact. All right. So now what does it do? It's going to set up the UI and go from there. So now here we can also set up the on-click listener. So basically here, usually we'll set up the on-click listener for the whole row item. So we have view binding, mbinding dot get root dot set on-click listener, new on-click listener. So that's the on-click listener for clicking on the item, right? And then similarly, I can do the mbinding dot get root, not get root, mbinding dot the image view delete dot set on-click listener, new on-click listener. And basically we're gonna worry about these in a little bit, but here we can just set up the contact. So basically we'll say binding dot text view mbinding dot text view name, set text to mcontact dot get name. And similarly we're going to do the other ones. There's text view name, text view email, text view phone, and text view phone type. And then this is going to be get email, get phone, and get phone type. All right, so we're good here with displaying the user, and that's the view holder already set up. So copy this from here, and then basically what I'm going to do is, and the adapter is already set up also. So I'm going to create, I need an adapter. So basically I need an adapter, is the adapter. All right, let me copy this stuff from here and paste it to the top just so I can see all the variables that I have. All right, so we are here. And before we go get contacts, what I'm going to do is I need to set up the recycler view. So binding dot recycler view dot set layout manager, new linear layout manager, and then this needs the context get activity, and we're good here. So we have the binding set up here, and then we create the adapter equals new context adapter, there it is. And then we'll do binding dot recycler view dot set adapter to adapter. All right, so we're good here. And then we say get contacts. Perfect. So we have set up the recycler view. Now here we get the contacts. Now we need to notify the adapter. So in order to do that, this is running on not on the main thread. This is running on a child thread in this method. This block is running in a child thread. So basically we need to do something to the recycler view, and the recycler view is the UI. This means we need to ask the main thread or the UI thread, which is also the UI thread, to do this job, not the background. So what we do is get activity dot run on UI thread, new runnable, and then whatever we write here in this block is going to run on the main thread. Okay, so now what do we want to run on the main thread? We just want to delete the adapter to notify the data has changed, and that solves this situation. So basically when you have the data available, you want to tell something to the adapter, you just tell the adapter like this. Okay, now if we run this, you will see that the API gets called and the data is displayed. See here, I have the names of the people and the data is displayed. So basically the data is being displayed, and things are working fine, right? I'm able to display their name, email, and I'm getting the data. Now to handle the delete is also straightforward. So now to order to handle the delete, so if we scroll up here, in order to handle the delete, so we did the get contacts. Now in order to handle the deletion, you need to specify what? It's a post request, and you need to specify the ID. Okay, so we'll see, and this is the URL. So let's create a method. So basically all you need to do is pass on an ID. Okay, cool. So now what we could do is, I'll create a method here. I'll call it void delete contact, and then I can pass on the whole contact or even just the ID of the contact. I don't need the whole contact, but anyway, I have the contact already, or I can just pass the ID, whatever you would prefer to do here, right? Now, in order to do a post request, so I go back here, and what I would like to do is to post a form with parameters, Java, right? So here's how you post a form. So I'll copy this stuff from here to here. Basically, first of all, you create a request body. Here it is, and it's a form body. What's the name of the parameter? It's ID. What's the value? It's gonna be contact get ID. Get ID. That's the ID of the contact. Now the delete URL. I need the delete URL. Here is the full URL. Here it is. This is my delete URL. You build the request. You tell it what the URL is. You give it the post body, right, which has the ID and the contact ID. And then we do the same thing to do the contact. So basically we use the client dot create dot new call. You pass the request, and then you do enqueue new callback. All right, so exactly the same code that we had before, but now we just have to write the on response. Okay, cool. So now in the on response, we'll check to see if response is successful. This means that the deletion happened, else something happened, right? So we'll do this. And so let's see what happens when we do a non-successful request. Let's say I don't include the ID and I click send. You see here it returns 400, bad request. You see when you click 7, it also returns bad request because this ID is not there. So let's see if we'll try this and see if this is going to work or no. Let's try and see. So now let's say I go in here and I'll say delete contact, and I pass it, and it needs a whole new contact, so I need a contact. Let's say instead of the whole contact, I'm just going to pass a string, which is the CID, okay, the contact ID. And basically that's what I'm going to pass on here, right? I don't have the whole I just need the ID. And let's say I want to delete 7, right? So I can do something like this, delete contact, and pass it the CID, which is 7. So let's see, it's like this. So basically here it is, and I'm going to pass it the contact ID. And let's see where do we fall, right? So basically if it's here, I'll do e.print stack trace. Now if it's here, then I'll do response.get exception, or response dot is not successful. So basically we can get let's check, see where are we here. So let's see what happens if we are here or here. So basically is successful means that it is it's 200 or 300, yani from 200 to 300 range. So I think we're gonna fall here. So let's see, log d, and then we'll say here not successful, right? So that's this, and then if it's successful, it's gonna fall here. Okay, so copy this, and here is successful, and then if it falls here, it's going to be, if it falls here and it is usually timing out or something, it will print the whole stack trace. So let's run this. We know that it's not going to be successful because we just ran it for ID 7. You see here it says that, let's see, not successful. You see here response is not successful. So basically this means that because the response code is ending up, because we're sending 7, you click send, the response code is 400, right? Now let's see if we want to do it with an account that is already there, or a contact that's already there. Let's say I want to delete contact number 6, right? So if I tell it to delete contact 6, okay, and let me clear the log and I'll run this again, you'll see that it will delete it. Here it is, and it says successful. See here? So basically these are the logs that we have here, successful, not successful, right? Okay, cool. So now if it's not successful, I can also parse the body, by the way, because it comes back with a body. So if you go to the delete, click send, you see there is an error that shows up, and there's a body of an error. I can parse that if I want to, right? So basically I can do that here. This is what the response will look like, right? Okay. So now if we are here, we are done. This means that the response is successful. Then we want to refresh the list. And to refresh that list, because we deleted an item here, we want to go back to the server and get the whole list again. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to do run get activity dot run on UI thread new runnable, and I'm just going to call it get contacts. Okay, So basically I will run it on the main thread, and then get contacts will run. Get contacts will schedule something on the background thread again and take care of refreshing the list. Okay, because get contacts, basically what it does, it gets the contacts. You see, it gets the contacts, and then it clears the contact list, parses the new ones, and then tells the adapter to reload, right? Okay, so that's what is going to happen here. Straightforward, right? So that's when it's successful. Now when it's not successful, I can just get the message. I want to get this message. So basically looking at the response, it's a JSON object, right? So basically I need to get the body. So I'll go to response. So basically string body equal response dot body dot get dot string. Here is dot string. And now basically I have a JSON object, and this is the JSON object equals new JSON object and the body. And basically it needs to be surrounded by a try catch, right? And then similarly I want to do a toast message. So get activity dot run on UI thread new runnable, and then here I'm going to do a toast get activity, and then here I'm going to display the message that I received. The message I received is JSON object dot get string, and what's the name of the string? The name of the string is message. Okay, now it's not happy for some reason because it needs to have a try catch. So what I could do is I could get the message here. So string message equals, I can do this here. Okay, and there is already a try catch that will take care of this exception. So then we can go ahead and do the message here. Okay, so basically I'm just retrieving the message and using it here. Okay, otherwise I have to have another try catch inside here, and I don't want to do that. So here we are, and we have the message, okay, showing up here. Okay, so now if we run this again, you see 6 is somebody that we already deleted. We run it again, see what's going to happen. Unable to locate contact with ID 6 because we're asking it to delete number 6. Cool, so we're able to do the deletion, right? So basically there is a method that we created that we just pass it the contact ID and it does the deletion. And where do I do that? I'm going to do it in the view holder under the delete button. So where is the delete button? This is the image delete. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to say delete contact mcontact.get UID, the ID of the contact. So that takes care of the deletion. So now if we run this app now, when you click on delete, it deletes the contact. Here we are. I click on, let's say this one, it gets deleted. It gets deleted and the list is refreshed. Cool. It's very straightforward, right? And basically, if you look at what we did is just get contacts, and then the adapter takes care of the deletion, and we're good to go. So now let's say we click on one of these items. We want to go, let's create add contact, right? So let's do add contact. So we need an interface. This is a fragment, so we need an interface. So basically let's implement the interface. Interface, we call it the contacts listener, right? And then basically void delete, not delete. I want to let's say go to add contact, and then void go to contact details and pass a contact. Okay, here we are. So because we're going to be passing along these contact, let's make it make the contact extend serializable. All right. Oh, sorry, implement serializable. Sorry, implement serializable. Here it is. So that's the contact. Okay. So now we need to set up the listener and on attach, and similarly the listener equals context, which is the activity. This means we have to go to the activity and it needs to implement that interface, right? And import it, and then implement the methods, and here we go. So basically here is add contact and go to contact details. Cool. So now to go to contact details, I just need to get support fragment manager dot begin transaction dot commit, and then basically dot replace or dot id dot root view new create contact fragment, and then add to backstack. All right, so basically we're able to go to the create contacts fragment from here. Now we need to add this to the to this button click, right? So where is that? On create view is here. So maybe we'll do it here. Binding dot button contact dot set on click listener new on click listener listener dot go to add contact. Cool. So that's this. Now when you click on, we can also add the other one, you know, it's straightforward also. Where is the other one? When you click on a row, you want to go somewhere. So basically when you click on a row, it's in the view holder, right here it is. We will do listener dot go to contact details contact. So basically we're going to pass it the contact and just go to contact details. Takes care of that. So I don't think we're going to touch on this again, but let's see create contact fragment. Now we agree that the create contact fragment is not receiving any data, so we don't need all of this. We don't need all of this, and we don't need all of this. We don't need this also, and we can create the binding for us, initialize our binding. So we'll do fragment create contact binding. Here is my binding, and then similarly I can initialize the binding equals fragment contact binding dot inflate get inflator container. Oh, you already have an inflator, so we don't need to get inflator. We already have the inflator container false, return binding dot get root. All right, so that's this part, and we're done here. On view created, get activity dot set title, and this is create contact, right? Or add contact. All right, here we are. And then basically if you look at, if we run this just to get an idea of what it looks like. So basically when you add contact, okay, it's not going. So let's go back to the main activity and see. So go to add contact, we never implemented it, right? So I think we added the code in the wrong place. This needs to go here, right? Go to add contact needs to, that's where when you click, not when you passing on a contact detail. So here it is, add contact, here's add contact. Cool. So you have the name, the email, the phone, and the phone type. Cool. Back again to create contact, and basically the cancel and the on submit. So basically binding dot button cancel dot set on click listener new on click listener, and similarly binding dot button submit dot set on click listener new on click listener. So that's the submit and the cancel taken care of. Right, now we need the interface. An interface, and we call it, for example, create contact listener. All right, void cancel create contact, and then void done create contact. And we'll see what both of these methods do, but then we know that we need to do the listener stuff and the binding, the on attach. And because we did that, we need the activity to implement this interface. So it implements the interface, and here we are, and implement the methods and so on. So basically we'll see what these methods do in a little bit, but cancel, we know it's going to pop the backstack, get support fragment manager dot pop the backstack, and we'll see what this one does in a little bit. But here it is, create contact. And basically all what we're going to do is let's create, now I just would like to create a contact, and this is a post method. So if we close this one, don't want to save this, go back to create contact. Basically it's a post call. This is the URL, and then these are the values. Perfect. So basically this means that I could use the same post call that I used for the delete. So if you look at the delete contact here, and this is how we created the request. Here it is, Control C, and I go back to create contact, right? And let me I will have a method here. Let's say I create a method here void create contact, right? And here it is. So basically what we're going to send it, string, all these values, string name, string email, string phone, string type. All right, so basically when we go here, we see that it's name, email, phone, and type, right? And this is the types that we could have: name, email, string, phone, and type. So basically, so this is name, and there's gonna be name. Okay, name, add others, phone, name, email, phone, and type. And then I'm gonna pass in name, email, phone, and the type. Okay, cool. So now this is name, email, phone, and type, right? Now if you look at the if we look at this, then these are the different types, right? So I'm gonna copy them here. Okay, here we are. Okay, cool. So here is this. I'm just gonna put them here. Now what I'm going to do is, let's say, get the name, string name equals binding dot edit text name dot get text dot to string. That's the name. Similarly, I can do the same thing for email. Okay, that's email, and that's phone, and this one is edit text email, edit text phone. So I have the phone and email and so on, and now I could get also the string. You see that the cell is pre-checked, right? So I could do string type equals cell, right? And then we could check to see if radio group binding dot radio group dot get button id r dot id dot button radio button to home, right? And then there's another else, home radio button office, right? So that what you could do is, then if that's the case, then the type is equal to home, otherwise the type is equal to office. All right, so I have the type also. Perfect. So now let's do some checks. If the name is empty, I'm gonna show an error message. Else if the email is empty, else if the phone is empty, else I'm going to go ahead and call the method. So basically if everything is good, I'm just going to call create contact, pass it the name, email, phone, and type. All right, here are some toast messages. Get activity. I'll say enter name, and so on. So the other ones is enter email, enter phone. So enter email, enter phone. All right, perfect. So that's this, and I have a type, and we're good. So basically I have that. When you click on the submit button, we're going to do all of this, and if everything is good, we create the contact. So now creating the contact is just simply submitting the post. So name, email, phone, and type, and this is the URL, and it's a post request, so we're good here, right? Now we do the client. We need a client, so basically I go back to context fragment. There is a client that we need, right? So where is the client? Here's the client. Here's that. Here's the client. Now we go in and use the client. So client dot new call past request dot enqueue new callback, right? And then basically here we check to see if response is successful, right? Else you go here. So now if the response is not successful, let's say, what can make it not successful? Let's say you don't include the type and you click send. it's not successful. It will come back as 400 and it will give you there is an error message. So I can copy exactly the same code that I have for the deletion. So basically, if you look here, the error code that we had here, I can copy this stuff. You know, if it's not successful, I can do something like that. So basically, I can copy this code. All right, so that's this code here. This, if it's not successful, we retrieve the message and we show it and so on, right? So that's this. And we can test that, but then the case when it is successful, then all we have to do is just tell the listener that you're done, right? mListener dot done. But this is a UI call, so basically you just say get activity dot run on UI thread new runnable, and then mListener dot done contact creation, and you are done. So now when you're done contact creation, we want to go back to this screen. What happens is when this screen is getting loaded, it's going to be popped from the backstack. See what happens. This method gets called again. So basically, what method gets called again? This method gets called again. This method first, and then this method first. But what does this method do? It gets the contacts again from the server. So if you deleted the contact and it popped the backstack, you come back here, it will contact the server again, get the list of contacts and display it. So the contact, if it was deleted, this list is going to refresh. Or if the contact was added, this list is also going to get refreshed. So let's see. So basically all we have to do in here is just also pop the backstack. You know, all of them, you just have to pop the backstack. So let's run it and see. Here we are. Add a contact. Let's say here Bob Smith p@b.com. 1 2 3 4 5. Here it is, something home, and I click on submit. Here is Bob Smith. This is their email. Home. Let's delete Bob Smith. Bob Smith deleted. Add another contact. Let's add another Bob Smith. Bob Smith b@b. Let me write it correctly this time. b@b.com. And here is the phone number. Office. And click on submit. We're good. So now, if we wanted to fail, let's say we don't send the type. Right here. Okay, I'm not going to send the type. I commented it out. Now let's run it. Add contact. Let's say we add Bob, or let's say Alice Smith a@a.com, and here is the phone number, and it's cell. Click submit. It says invalid type because we never send the type, right? Okay, cool. So we are able to also delete, and that's 90% of this application. Right? We're able to get the contacts. We're able to add the contact. And we're able to delete a contact. Now, what if we click on one of these contacts? We need to go to the contact details screen and display the contact. All right, so where is the contact details screen? Let's see. Here is the details fragment. This details fragment will expect to receive a contact to display. All right, so this means that we need to implement this stuff here. Okay, delete this. Org is going to be a contact. Here that. This is going to be a contact. Contact, right? Here it is. Delete all of that. Delete this. Don't need all these comments. And now you're going to send me a contact. Here is the contact. And then put serializable. Org. Here we are. Still param2. We don't need this one. And then this is going to be the contact. Delete this. Here, mContact equals get serializable arg contact, and it need to be casted to a contact. Casted to contact, and now we're good to go. So basically now what I have to do is just display the contact. So now for me to display, let me use binding. It makes my life easier. Fragment details binding, and similarly I'm going to use binding equals fragment details binding dot inflator container false, return binding dot get root. Here we are, and then make this a little bit up here so you could see it. on view created, and then here I'm going to add some spaces here so that you can just push it a little bit up. Here it is. So basically here I'm just going to use get activity dot set title to contact details binding dot text view name dot set text m contact dot get name. Right, so basically that's straightforward here. Okay, cool. So this is text view email, text view phone number, and text view phone type, get email, get phone, get type. All right, perfect. So we have all the stuff we need with regard to displaying the contact. Run it again. You look what's going to happen. I click, nothing happens because the main activity, we need to add the code to take you to that screen, right? So here we are. So basically we'll do get support fragment manager dot begin transaction dot replace r.id dot root view, and then we'll do the details fragment dot new instance with contact dot add to backstack null, and then commit the transaction dot commit, and we're good to go. So basically when we run this now, you will see that here it is. We click on Kathy, shows up here. Go back, click on this, shows up here. Click on Bob Smith, shows up here. Add a contact, here it is, Alice Smith a@a.com, and the phone number, home. Click on submit, and it works. We have Alice Smith. I click here, I see Alice Smith. All right, perfect. So you see, we are able to create this app, and please let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.